Welcome to The Explainer. Think about it. Every single day, we're interacting with people, navigating physical space, mostly without a second thought. But what happens when things go wrong, when someone crosses a line? Well, today, we're diving into the hidden rules that govern all of that. It's a fascinating area of law called intentional torts. So, to kick things off, let me hit you with a real-life case that sounds totally absurd. Imagine this. A 5-year-old kid pulls a lawn chair away from his aunt right as she's sitting down. She falls, fractures her hip. It's a mess. So here's the question. Could that 5-year-old actually be held legally responsible for that? The answer is probably not what you think, and we're going to come back to it in just a bit. But first, let's get one really important thing straight. When we talk about torts, we are not talking about criminal law, okay? There's no jail time here. Torts are civil wrongs. It's basically the law's way of sorting out disputes between people when one person's actions cause harm to another. And usually the solution is about money, about compensation to try and make things right again. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute most important idea here, intent. Then we'll untangle the classic mix-up between assault and battery. From there, we'll look at wrongs that are less about physical contact, like being confined or suffering emotional distress. We'll also cover the ultimate defense, consent. And then at the end, I'll give you a legal toolkit you can use to think through these situations yourself. All right, let's get into it. Every single one of these intentional torts is built on one core idea, and it's a word we all use every day, intent. But in the legal world, it has a very specific, kind of surprising meaning. So let's break down what intent really means when a lawyer says it.
So in tort law, intent has pretty much nothing to do with having a bad heart or being a malicious person. It's way more technical than that. It's all about the defendant's state of mind regarding the consequences of what they did, not their moral character.
So the law gives you two ways to prove intent. The first path is super straightforward. You acted with the purpose of making it happen. You meant to punch someone, so you did. Easy. But the second path is where it gets really interesting. You knew with substantial certainty that something was going to happen, even if that wasn't your main goal. Think about it. You might not want to hit anyone specifically, but if you throw a big rock into a packed crowd, you know with substantial certainty that you're going to hit somebody. And that's enough. And that brings us right back to our 5-year-old. The big reveal. In the actual case, the court said, yep, he could be liable for battery. But why? Not because he was a tiny evil genius who wanted to hurt his aunt. Nope. It's because even a 5-year-old knows with substantial certainty that if you move a chair that someone is about to sit in, they are going to fall. That knowledge, that certainty of the outcome, was enough to count as legal intent. Wild, right? The law also has this really clever little fix for when things go wrong. It's called transferred intent. It's basically the bad aim rule. Let's say you swing a punch intending to hit person A, but they duck, and you accidentally hit person B standing behind them. The law just says your original intent transfers from A to B. Basically, your bad aim doesn't get you off the hook. The intent just follows the harmful result. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on what intent means, let's put it to work with the two most famous torts out there. People mash them together all the time, assault and battery, but legally they are two completely different things that protect two different parts of you.
And this table here just lays it all out perfectly. Check out that row, awareness required. For an assault, the victim absolutely must be aware of what's happening. But for a battery, the answer is no. Which means, and this is kind of crazy, someone could commit a battery against you while you're asleep or unconscious, and it still counts. Why? Because it violates your right to be physically left alone, whether you knew about it at the moment or not.
So let's dig into battery. At its core, it's an intentional act that results in a harmful or offensive contact. Harmful is easy. That's stuff that causes pain or injury. Offensive is a bit broader. It means contact that would violate a reasonable person's sense of dignity. Think an unwanted kiss or someone spitting on you. And get this, the idea of contact is way bigger than just skin to skin. The law protects your entire person, and that includes things you're holding, things you're wearing, anything really closely connected to you. I mean, look at this case. A court actually ruled that snatching a dinner plate out of someone's hand was a battery because at that moment, that plate was intimately connected to his body. All right, now let's flip over to assault. If battery protects your body, assault protects your mind. The key here isn't physical contact. It's creating a reasonable fear or apprehension of an imminent battery. It's that heart-stopping moment when a fist is flying at your face and you brace for it. The harm isn't the punch itself, it's the mental anguish of anticipating that unwanted hit. So, we've covered protecting our bodies from contact and our minds from the threat of it. But tort law doesn't stop there. It also protects other really basic rights, like our freedom to move around and our right to not be subjected to truly awful behavior.
First up is false imprisonment. This is when someone intentionally traps you in a bounded area against your will. And we're not just talking about a prison cell with bars. It could be a locked room, being held in a car, or even just being kept in one spot by credible threats of force. The whole point of this tort is to protect your basic freedom of movement.
And then there's a tort for behavior that's just so terrible, so far over the line, that the law has to step in. It's called intentional infliction of emotional distress. And I've got to tell you, the bar for this one is incredibly high. The conduct can't just be mean or rude. It has to be truly extreme and outrageous, something that goes beyond all possible bounds of decency. So what does outrageous actually look like to a court? Well, they look for certain red flags. Was the behavior happening over and over again, like a campaign of harassment? Was the person doing it in a position of power, like a boss harassing an employee? Or, and this is a big one, were they deliberately targeting something they knew you were vulnerable about, like a phobia or a recent tragedy? Those are the things that can turn regular bad behavior into something legally outrageous. So you might be thinking, what happens if someone agrees to the contact? What if a person gives permission? Well, that brings us to a super powerful defense in tort law that's basically the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. Consent. If you consent to the act, then legally, there's no wrong. Now, consent can show up in a few different ways. You've got express consent. That's the easy one. You say it out loud or sign a form. Then there's implied consent. This is all about the context and your actions. If you join a pickup football game, you are implying that you consent to being tackled. And finally, sometimes the law just implies consent for you, like in an emergency to allow a doctor to save the life of an unconscious patient. All right, we have covered a ton of ground here, from what intent really means to all these different torts and even a major defense. So let's pull it all together. Let's give you a simple, practical framework that you can use to analyze these situations and kind of think like a lawyer. This right here, this is your cheat sheet. It's a logical path to a clear answer. First, you've got to identify what tort we're even talking about. Is it a battery? An assault? Second, you state the rule. What are the ingredients you need to prove? Third, and this is crucial, you analyze intent. Was it purpose or substantial certainty? Fourth, you go through the rest of the elements one by one. Fifth, you always check for defenses, like consent. And finally, you wrap it up and make a conclusion. Is the defendant likely liable or not? So you see, these aren't just some dusty, abstract theories in the law book. They're the rules that shape our physical world every day. So the next time you're watching your favorite action movie, that epic fight scene is going to look a little different. You'll be able to see it not just as cool choreography, but as a lightning-fast series of potential assaults, batteries, and maybe even a false imprisonment or two. Thanks for watching The Explainer.